Good morning, everybody. It's Linda Lattimore, and we're here this morning at our third Coffee Connect. In our first one, we were talking about what corporate social responsibility is, because I had a number of people who didn't really understand what it was, and they wanted to know. They were still stuck in the paradigm of it's writing a check for charity, and of course it's not. It's a more holistic way about the way you run your business. In the second Coffee Connect, we begin to look at how to create a social responsibility strategy that ties in with your business strategy. You want to make sure that it weaves in and out, and it becomes a tapestry of how you're running your business, taking care of your employees, responding to your consumers and your investors, and your compliance initiatives. So there's an entire strategy that you want to weave in and out of your business strategy. Today, what I want to talk about just a little bit is what are social purpose entities, because I have had a number of people who have been approaching me asking me about benefits corporations and B corporations and L3Cs, and they want to include social purpose in their business, but they're not exactly what kind of structure they should have. If it's not the old B Corp and C Corps and partnerships and LLCs, they're hearing rumblings in the jungle out there that there's some new social purpose entities, but they're not sure what they are, and they've asked me to see if I can help them out. So I thought we would do a quick broad brush. These are always a broad brush, right? Because we only have 20 minutes together. And if you have particular questions about legal questions in particular about your business, I would ask that you hold those and just set up an appointment with me, because obviously there's no attorney-client privilege here on a call like this, right? But at the last slide, I have my calendar, and you can just take the link and set up a call if you want. And you can go back and watch these again. They're on the lindalattimore.com website. So let me see if I can share my screen here and kind of show you what I'm talking about. So share screen. All right, my friends, let's see how we can do this. Share screen, get a little bit bigger. There we go. Okay, so social purpose entities is what we're talking about today. We've talked about the fact that it's just a broad brush. So what's going on out there is the four sectors are all kind of coming together. We have the not-for-profit sector, which historically has been involved in solving all of our social issues, right? The for-profit, who is only concerned about the return on investment to their investors. They're beginning to sort of meet up in the middle. There's not-for-profits that need to, or who's, sorry, the dog is here. Bentley, going over there. The not-for-profits are beginning to, go on, sit down, buddy. Realize that they need to have some revenue models inside, because it's really hard to get donor dollars these days, particularly with all the catastrophes we've been having lately. So they're beginning to look at some revenue models. The for-profits are beginning to realize that they need to show up as the good guy, and they need to run their businesses more conscious of our environment. And so they're stepping into the space. And a lot of that is because we're getting pushed by the citizen sector, right? And for me, the citizen sector is not just the consumers, but it's our investors. So the citizens are saying, please run your businesses more efficiently and take care of our planet and take care of our future generations. And the investors are showing up as impact investors. They're saying, you know, if price and quality are all the same, I want to invest in a company that I think is doing some good, and where my dollars make an impact and I feel good. You know, I get some emotional dollars back, not just dividends back. I feel good about where I'm placing my investments. So we're hearing loudly from the citizen sector. What's showing up in Facebook, I'm sure we're all on Facebook, emails and blogs, and people do, you know, internet searches, right? We look pretty quickly to see which company we think is doing well. And like I say, if price and quality are the same, we're probably going to pick the one that is interested in their community, or it's a good place to work, or that we feel like our money is safe there. So we do a lot of research nowadays on where we want to work and where we want to put our money with. So those things are all important. There is that market impact saying, you know, it's time for a change. So these same consumers, I call them ethical consumers, are doing sort of this guilt-based shopping. I mean, it used to be we were happy with just tags that said 10% goes to the rainforest. Well, not anymore. That began to look like cause marketing. And so what they're saying now is, you know, you need to walk the talk, or I don't want to shop from you. And we do so much shopping online anyway, right? Impact, like I said, we mentioned the impact investors. And so these two groups have become partners in a push for sustainability, in a push for social responsibility. And they're looking for companies that are cutting edge, that are trying to step up and do more than just write a check to charity. I call those particular companies Renaissance companies. Because, you know, think about the Renaissance. It kind of came out of the Dark Ages. Suddenly there was this rebirth of music and dance and things like the Gutenberg Press. Suddenly people were getting books and education was being spread farther than it ever was before when they had to handwrite books, remember? Now it's kind of the same way, only it's digitally. I mean, look how much information is being spread around the planet because of the internet, right? So I like to think of the companies that are stepping out right now, that are trying to shed light and be more conscious, as Renaissance companies. So one of the first places that we saw this sector push was showed up with a group called B Lab. So B Lab, super cool group. They set up this organization in 2006, and their reason was they said, you know, you can actually have a for-profit business that has a social impact. You know, it was the beginnings of social enterprise. And so they created an assessment that you could go and can still go, and I'll give you the link in a little bit, can go take this test and see where you stand out there with everybody else. See how well you're running your company, and is it efficient, and is it conscious, and what do your employees think, and do you have green initiatives? And you can, and after you take it, and it takes like 2 to 4 hours, you get the score back, so you can kind of see where you fit out there in terms of in the market. Well, they went on the following year, the first B Corp was certified. So this little logo that you have on the screen next to you, if you're certified as a B Corp, this is like a good housekeeping seal of approval kind of thing. It's not a legal structure, right? It's a certification process, but you can put it on your products or your services, and that shows that you have gone through this assessment, that you're conscious, you're trying to make your business socially responsible, and you meet the criteria. That same year is when we started hearing about the term impact investing, what we talked about before. So really think about it. This is just 10 years ago. It's not all that long ago, right? The following year, in 2008, they began to launch policy efforts, right? They realized that it's not just about the good housekeeping seal of approval or the benefit or the B Corp certification process, that maybe it was time to go back into the Secretary of State's offices, the government offices, and say, you know, guys, we think you need an actual legal structure, a legal entity here. And so they began doing some major push and advocating to see those things happen. The following year, they really started looking at how we measure impact, okay? So it's great to say that you're in the middle of all of these projects and that you're doing all these great things, but if you can't measure how much happier your employees are, the impact you have on your community, your reduction of the negative impacts on green, what difference does it make, right? So they began working with standards organizations and working on setting up standards that people could use. And they began to launch out into the international market as well. And that was the year that Canada formed a B Corporation. By 2010, we finally had a legal entity, a benefit corporation, which is a legislated legal entity like a C Corp, S Corp, right? It showed up in Maryland as the first one out the door. There are now 33 states, I'm really happy to say, that actually have these legal structures, okay? And then 2013, Delaware joins in, which is really great because, as you know, they're sort of the bellwether state for corporate entities. Some of our most Fortune 500 companies are there, and they've always led the way. So when Delaware jumped in and said, yes, you are right, we need this new entity, then things really took a turn for people to become, companies to become more conscious and realize this is for real, right? And that year also, I thought it was kind of cool that Campbell Soup's subsidiary Organic Plums became a certified B Corp as well. So some of the criteria for being a B Corp is that they have to pass the assessment that we talked about, and they have to file annual reports, which is a great thing. They're published on their website. So, you know, if you're going to say you're all these things and you're willing to put it out there, it probably looks like you're obviously more accountable because people can check, right? We have the internet at our disposal. They also have to go in and they have to make some changes to their formation documents, their original articles of incorporation, showing that they have higher standards than just the normal. I mean, half the time you'll see in those articles of formation that you're there to do anything and everything. And so we're saying, no, they have to go in and be a little more definitive about how they're conducting their business to a higher standard. All right. And then, of course, they can show, like I mentioned before, they can show the little certification on there. I think it was King Arthur Flour that was the first one that put it on their bags of flour to show that they were a B Corp certified company. This particular assessment, as I mentioned, here's the link. Once again, you guys can go back and take a look at that later on if you want. And you'll get your information back after you take it, right? And the assessment varies every year. Like once you're B Corp, B certified, every year you have to do a little more. So it gets a little bit tighter for you because they want to keep having you rise to the occasion just a little bit more. So at this point in time, it's super exciting. The B Corp movement, there's, I checked just last week or so, there was 2,263 B corporations in 50 plus countries. So a lot of folks have said, we want to be socially conscious. 130 industries, and they say they have one unifying goal, right? And obviously it's to do better in a more socially conscious way. 33 states have passed benefit corporation laws right now, with 6 more working on it. So I wouldn't be surprised if before we know it, all of our states have this. It's super important to understand why these are different. Okay, we go back to this Ben and Jerry stories. Now I know everybody knows who Ben and Jerry ice cream is, right? It's some of the best, and they were also known to be the organic. Long when organic wasn't so neat, you know. They were in Vermont, super interested in their communities and their families, and everybody worked there. And you know, I would say they were truly one of the first social enterprises, right? Well, I believe they were struggling a bit on the number side of things. It's hard to compete with the bigger businesses, right? And ultimately they were taken over in a hostile takeover by Unilever. It was particularly hostile because everybody thought that Ben & Jerry's had sold out to the big guys, and that all these things they represented were going to fall by the wayside. They did come in and tighten things up to the hue and cry of that, and got their books back in order, turned their finances around a little bit better. But to Unilever's credit, even though a lot of consumers were viewing this as a big sellout, to Unilever's credit, Ben & Jerry's became the first wholly owned subsidiary to gain B Corp certification, okay? And so the thing is, had they been a benefit corporation, or it was part of their articles of formation originally, they might never have had the issues that they had. They might not have had certain programs take away because they would have been part of the original structure. I mean, you have to remember that without B Corp certification, without benefits corporation status, right, when you're just a regular C or S, your only reason for existence as a corporate entity is to provide a solid rate of return to your investors. That's it, right? So, you know, when you're stuck in a situation where you may have these wonderful programs, but you haven't gotten benefits corporation status, you're just a B Corp. If someone comes in and takes you over, or if your shareholders get really angry and file some kind of shareholder action against you because you're spending money that they think should be going into their pockets on social issues or community issues, that's what some of the lawsuits were about, right? Then the chances are that you're going to lose a lot of those programs unless you've built them into the very organizational documents from the beginning. And that's where the benefits corporations make that, give you that insurance. Okay. So as we said, the government sectors are stepping in all kinds of ways. I'm happy. It's not, but it's been thanks to the citizen sector push. So yes, you've had an impact as citizens out there asking for all of these things, demanding all these things from your companies, putting together groups such as B-Lab, which are really sort of a soft law, right? They're the precursor to the hard law, the legislated law. And you have had an effect, right? So the kinds of entities are benefits corporations like we talked about. Sometimes we hear them called social purpose companies, flexible purpose companies. We hear of also this thing called a low profit limited liability company, which is, remember, benefit corporations are not LLCs, they are corporations. And I have people ask me all the time, can an LLC be a benefit corporation? No, it's not a corporation, okay? So once again, the benefit corporation, the legal structure, offers a governmental seal of approval. It's structured the same as any other regular company. It doesn't have any particular tax advantages or anything. You elect to have that status, like you would elect to be an S Corp, right? The corporate purpose is to create a material positive impact on society and the environment, and with higher standards of purpose, accountability, and transparency, all the things everyone is asking for, whether you're investors or whether you're consumers these days. And it's that mission insurance we spoke about a few minutes ago, to make sure that as long as that entity is alive, it can have those purposes in it. This is not to say that someone couldn't go in at some point in time if all the shareholders agreed and change the mission of that company, because yes, they could, but not just a handful of them could do it, right? And these companies are required to regularly report to shareholders on how the company is balancing their return on investment versus or vis-a-vis their shareholder, their social purpose actions, right? So that one doesn't get too skewed from the other. Sometimes I'm a little concerned because these state regulations vary somewhat from state to state, and some have more teeth than others. If in fact they're just reporting to the shareholders, and let's say there's 5 shareholders, 2 shareholders, 1 shareholder, how much effect does it really have, right? Are they just holding it out more from a marketing perspective? I am a benefit corporation, but perhaps they're not as accountable as they should be, okay? So the companies that, in those instances, in states that don't say you have to have a third-party monitor or some kind of third party come in and see if you're really up to it, a number of them are doing a combo thing. They're saying, I'm gonna be a benefit corporation so I have the legal protections where the shareholders are concerned and in the cases of takeovers, but I'm also gonna show up as a B Corp, go through that assessment, and make sure that my assessment results are posted to the public every year so that I really can show that I've met the criteria. And I think we're seeing in some instances that that may be the best of both worlds, particularly in states that don't require you to report it to the public, like if you're a privately held company, okay? So that might be something you want to take a look at. So this low profit limited liability company, I have to tell you, I'm a little iffy on the whole thing. It's only come out in 8 states and 2 Indian reservations. And basically it says that it cannot have a lot of profit. Maybe it can have a little bitty profit, low profit. Well, of course, what's the point in being in a profit business if you're shooting for low profit? I mean, you have a nonprofit and you have for profit, but this idea of low profit just seems like, you know, what's the point? Some of the reason for existence is that these LLCs are allowed to get money in from foundations, and foundations can recycle that money back into the foundation and then reissue it to another company, so it goes in and out. So their articles of incorporation kind of have to mirror program-related investment rules with the IRS, and they're not always approved. So it's just kind of a tough, clunky entity, and it's not one I'm really all that hot about. We're also seeing for groups that aren't quite ready to take on legal structures or certifications. I mean, there is other ways that you can get into the game. It's not through a new entity. there can be hybrid structures. You see a lot of for-profit businesses that have a foundation, particularly in public companies. It's really hard sometimes to keep their visions and missions apart, because remember, the not-for-profit is very much mission driven to solve a problem, and the for-profit is very much driven to make profit, right? And so sometimes they can get watered down in each other, and I think that presents its own set of problems in terms of, you don't want the not-for-profit to lose its IRS status, you know, because it's gotten mixed up with the for-profit. So that really needs to be, I would say, shepherded pretty carefully with a really strong support base around you. But you know, there's other ways you can do it. You can have, if you're a for-profit, a signature partnership with the not-for-profit, where you venture together in terms of, maybe I'll provide you people that you need, not-for-profit, some business expertise, and then you also look like the good guy from a marketing perspective and from employee engagement with your for-profit, right? So then we are also seeing, you know, P3 partnerships, right, where you're seeing the government, the citizen sector, and the for-profit sector coming together. For example, there may be some housing initiatives, or like the Astrodome in Houston. You know, you've got land that might be owned by the government. Maybe they want to use it for a not-for-profit new housing thing, and then they need for-profit money. So they're trying to come together and work together into sector partnerships. All of those carry sort of the same business risk that you would have in anything else, right? I think what I really want to just throw out to you guys here is that, you know, this is about having a culture of innovation, right? You want to have a socially responsible business, and you want to do it in a way that you're protected as a company, while you also, and not just protected legally as a company, but your reputation is protected, right? You don't want to just be, you want to walk the talk, not just be sort of a cause marketing kind of thing. And so, you know, make sure you're set up correctly, and that you really put some thought into it and how you're going to go out with your programs, and include all your strategy and everything in there for social responsibility with your business, and then move on out, because we need you. We really do need you as a Renaissance company out there, okay? Because you are the guys that are leading the charge. And now that we had our citizens step up and say, let's go for it, we need to get our business sector to step up and say, okay, I'm right here with you. And in answer to your request, I'm here for you. So if you have any more questions, which you might, I'm delighted to visit with you. You can make an appointment on my calendar. Just go into my calendar here and schedule a time, and we'll chat. Let me see if I can lend you a hand here on how to structure this. For those who are on a call today and who aren't actually on the Zoom link with us, just text 44222, 44222, and then put the word "stay connected." And you're going to get back a document that has that calendar link on how to reach me, or you know, how to be part of our Solutionaries Facebook group, our Changemakers group, and you know, participate in our calls. It's just information on how you can come and play with us, because that's what we would like. So I wanted to say thank you to everybody. Have a happy week, and I hope that this has been helpful to you, and I'm here for you. So go be change makers, everybody.